Hi, I'm State Senator Joe Markley here at the Capitol, where we just had the budget address from Governor Malloy. I wanted to bring you my first reaction to what he had to say and touch on a couple of other issues that are of interest right now, since I haven't done a tape for a few weeks. The governor's budget address, I haven't seen a physical copy of the budget yet or the supporting materials. I had a mixed response at best to what he had to say. First of all, of course, there's no denying the fact now that we have a very considerable deficit over the next 2 years, something approaching $3 billion in 2 years. You know, 5 years ago, we had a big deficit. We imposed the largest tax increase in Connecticut history, and the result is a continued deficit situation. To my mind, we will never get out of it until we reduce spending and are able to bring taxes first level and then start to reduce them. But again, the governor's proposal increases spending by over 3%. On the good news side, he does hold the funding to our towns and the ECS funding for the school districts level. I think that's something that has been a concern for every town and city in Connecticut, and a budgeting challenge. I think that now that he's come out with that proposal, that I'm reasonably confident the legislature will hold to that, and our towns can at least count on getting the same amount of money so they can go forth with their budget process. He also indicated that he's going to do away with the business entity tax, which I have to say I think was the best applause line of the day. It's been a ridiculous tax from the beginning. Some years ago, he decided to cut it in half. I thought that since the worst thing about the tax is not the amount of it so much as the very fact that people are bothered by having to pay it, that cutting it in half was rather foolish. But he seems to be indicating that it'll go all together, and I expect it will if he proposes it. On things, let me say generally, the applause throughout was rather tepid. People didn't seem too excited about most of what he had to say. Things that I had no better than mixed response for. He talked about expanding kindergarten statewide to full day. Once again, I believe that this is something that should be decided at the local level, and I believe that if the state government is going to expect it of the municipalities, they should be willing to pay for it. I'm sure that's not part of the deal, and it will be yet another unfunded mandate. He also talked about a great deal about the transportation plans, and there was a sense in which he gave us a beautiful vision of a wonderful transportation system and a huge amount of investment on all kinds of projects, necessary projects in many cases, things we know have been coming for years, like the Route 884 Mixmaster in Waterbury. It's all very well and good, but not a word was said about how we pay for it. Instead, he announced that he would form a commission to look into the ways to pay for our transportation spending. I'm sure he knows what result he wants that commission to get, because that's the way things are done up here. And again, I'm afraid that it's going to involve tolls, which I certainly cannot support. The unspoken downside of this, that I understand is in the budget, although no reference was made to it, are further reductions to funding to hospitals and another failure to help the nonprofits that are providing so much essential social services in the state. We have turned over social service functions to the nonprofits, and then we have basically refused to pay them for it. I think they've done a wonderful job in cutting costs, in continuing to provide these services, but you can only go so far with it, and I think we've passed that point. We need to put more money into those nonprofits. And I speak, as you know, as a fiscal conservative who doesn't want to spend anything we don't have to. That money has to be spent. And the hospitals have taken it on the chin year after year under this administration, including the meddling that the governor has done with Waterbury Hospital and St. Mary's that has resulted in deals that were made for investment falling through. He again is coming back, hurting the hospitals. I don't know what he thinks is going to happen with this policy. That's, let's say that's the bad news from the budget day. Let me touch on two other things. One, just because I find it very interesting. There's been I learned some weeks ago that the State Department of Transportation has used the power of eminent domain to take licenses away from bus companies. Now, eminent domain is the power the state government uses to construct roads and highways to say we have to take your house because there's a highway going through. It's necessary, but it's a very dangerous governmental power. In this case, they've expanded that governmental power to intangible property. State law says that property, land, buildings, and edifices are subject to eminent domain and nothing else. The courts have now construed facilities to include anything that facilitates a business. It doesn't have to be a concrete facility. And this means intellectual property, even patents, would be subject to eminent domain by the state. I've put a bill in to define strictly what can be taken under eminent domain. I'm hoping that will go forward. I think that it's dangerous to open the door to these seizures. On the positive side, the last thing I want to say, the highlight of the day for me was seeing my friends from the Salvation Army up here in Hartford, where they recognized the effort was made in many towns throughout Connecticut to raise money with the participation of Walmart in matching the fundraising. So it was a pleasant reminder of the bell ringing that Rob Sampson and I did at the Walmart in Southington that raised, due to the generosity of the people of the town and the surrounding area, well over $40,000 for Southington Social Services, matched by Walmart to bring to our town to help people in need, over $80,000. So that was one highlight to counterbalance the sourness that the budget address left with me. I will be back as we go forward in session to talk about the budget again and other issues that are before us. Thank you for your attention, and I'll look forward to seeing you.